You guys want to talk about the Mike Cammalleri trade? You know, the one with Calgary. We already did that. No. This is the other one. Today, for our trade tree video where we break down the history and outcome of a trade, we're going to look at Mike Cammalleri going from the Montreal Canadiens back to the Calgary Flames. Now, this trade is an interesting one. We've done much bigger trade trees than this, and you'll discover that as we go on. So why are we talking about this one? And the answer is simple. It's infamous. I don't mean infamous like Rask for Raycroft, like it was a bad trade. I mean infamous for another reason, but we'll get to that in a minute. January 2012. The 2011-2012 season was definitely one to forget for the Montreal Canadiens. They had 78 points, just 78 points, and finished third last in the entire NHL. What's weird is they only had a negative 14 goal differential, which isn't actually that bad. The Florida Panthers won their division with a negative 24 goal differential. Also with a negative 24 goal differential, the Calgary Flames. Bit of a different situation. They were still within striking distance of a playoff spot in the West, and here's how long ago 2012 was, by the way. The Calgary Flames were not fighting for a wild card spot, they were fighting for one of the top 8 spots in the West when they still did it like that, and they were in the Northwest Division, which was a thing. And in that season, it stunk. Well, they had the Vancouver Canucks, who were running over everybody with 111 points, ended up winning the President's Trophy. The Calgary Flames were the only other team in the Northwest that even topped 90 points with 90. And what's worse is they finished that season with the 4th fewest goals for in the entire NHL. They needed someone who could score. So we already have an ingredient. They need a guy who can score. And sometimes in hockey, teams think of the one that got away. And teams also call around the league going, hey, is so-and-so available? In January 2012, Mike Cammalleri fit all 3 of those criteria for the Calgary Flames. In his one and only season with the Calgary Flames prior to this trade, during the 2008-2009 season, Mike Cammalleri threw up 39 goals, 43 assists for 82 points in 81 games as a Flame. Then he goes to the Montreal Canadiens, he signs this big contract, he's making $6 million per year, but he doesn't quite recapture that same scoring level. 26 goals, 50 points in 65 games with the Habs, that's not bad, and he was hurt, he was out. 19 goals and 47 points in 63 games the next year, I'm starting to get worried. And during the 2011-2012 season leading up to this trade, Mike Cammalleri had just 9 goals and 22 points in 38 games with Montreal. It might be time for a change of scenery. But you know what? No, for the time being, he's a member of the Montreal Canadiens, and when you play for the Montreal Canadiens, who do you want to play against? The Boston Bruins. It's one of the most, if not the most, iconic rivalries in hockey. How can you not want to be a part of that? January 12th, 2012, he got to be a part of that. TD Garden, Montreal versus Boston. Jordan Caron scored early for the Boston Bruins in the first period to give them the 1-0 lead. There were no goals in the second, and in the third, well, Mike had to look on his phone because this happened.
Mike Cammalleri, as you guys pointed out, did not play in the third period. We're getting multiple reports out of Canada. He was sent to a hotel here in Boston. At the end of the second period, he reportedly was told he's been traded. The Canadiens are flying back to Montreal tonight. Mike Cammalleri apparently is not.
They traded the guy mid-game! Man, I'm trying to think of another time where I've seen this. We've seen an increase in players being held out of games just in case they're gonna get traded. Like, it used to just be the day before the deadline. Now it seems to be like a week or two beforehand. I remember the Leafs playing an outdoor game in Ann Arbor, Michigan against the Detroit Red Wings, and John Michael Lyles is all excited, and he's got his little toucan, and they're ready to play a big outdoor game in front of 100,000 people, and then they go, you're traded. But I don't remember another time where I saw a guy get traded mid-game. I mean, we saw Patrick Waugh say he's gonna get traded mid-game, and I mean, you sort of kind of gotta. But I've never seen, especially with a team as historic as the Montreal Canadiens, someone just get yanked off the bench like that mid-game. By the way, bye-bye. Good luck not being distracted for the rest of the game, guys who didn't get traded. You're only playing the 2011-2012 Boston Bruins, whose favorite hobby is removing skulls from the rest of the skeleton. I digress. The trade was as follows. In this trade, the Calgary Flames acquire a 5th round pick in 2012, goaltender Kari Ramo, and Mike Cammalleri. The Montreal Canadiens acquire a 2nd rounder in 2013, you have my attention, Patrick Holland, and Rene Bourque. Now these videos tend to get long these days, and there's a few parts of this deal that we don't have to spend a lot of time on, so we won't. The 5th round pick in 2012 that the Calgary Flames acquired was used on Ryan CULKIN. He split his career between the American Hockey League and the ECHL. On the Montreal side, Patrick Holland only ended up playing 5 games for the team. Then, in another trade, he was packaged with goaltender Peter Budaj and sent to the Winnipeg Jets for Eric TANGRADI. TANGRADI only played 7 games with the Montreal Canadiens, but he did get 5-10 in a game in one of them for boarding Christian Folin. That was December 3rd, 2014. Kari Ramo is a really interesting one because he ended up being found money for the Calgary Flames. I don't know how Flames fans interpret him. I always get sort of mixed messages there, but he wasn't bad, especially because prior to this trade, he hadn't been in the NHL for a long time. He started 106 games for the Flames, putting up a record of 49, 42, and 8 with a .911 save percentage. He didn't win the Vezina or anything, but that's about 106 starts from a pretty league average goalie that didn't even play for the team that traded him. The goalie the Montreal Canadiens got in their deal, it didn't quite work out. Wait, what goalie are you talking about? There was no goalie. Well, there technically was. Remember, Montreal got that 2013 second rounder from the Calgary Flames in this deal. That could be something. And the pick was 36th overall. That's close to a first rounder. And the goalie who was selected in the second round in 2013 actually just posted a .921 save percentage this past season in the NHL and went to the NHL All-Star game and Oh no, sorry, that's 44th overall pick Tristan Jarry. With the 36th overall pick, the Montreal Canadiens selected out of the QMJHL from the Halifax Mooseheads, ZACHARY FUCALE. Now hindsight is 2020, obviously, literally, we're in 2020. We know how this panned out. But I remember in his junior days, FUCALE was a point of tension for a lot in the stats community. Listen, if a goalie in their draft year throws up a record of 45, 5, and 3, yeah, you maybe spend a pick on him. And that's exactly what FUCALE had. The Halifax Mooseheads were absurd that year. They had Nathan MacKinnon, who ended up going 1st overall in 2013 to the Colorado Avalanche. They had Jonathan Drouin, who went 3rd overall to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and some people thought he should have maybe even gone ahead of MacKinnon. Of course they were a wagon, and it had some people going, he's only got a .909 save percentage. And that helped fan the Flames for a big, simple statistical argument. Wins are a terrible way to judge a goaltender. You know, at some point in the 90s, people were probably like, you know Dominik Hasek would have at least 1 cup if he played for the Red Wings. And a few years later, they said, let's find out, and then they won. But again, 45, 5, and 3. How don't you look at that? In January 2014, just the next season, FUCALE became the first goalie in QMJHL history to win 100 games in under 150 games. He did it in just 145. The world was expected of him, and the only guy he had to live up to, just Carey Price. Just Carey Price. And as of yet, a few NHL call-ups, lots of AHL games, ECHL games, but no NHL action. For a while, the QMJHL was known for just churning out goalie after goalie. I mean, Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur, Roberto Luongo. 2013 just wasn't that year, man. 3 goalies who played in the QMJHL in the 2012-13 season have played in NHL games. In 3rd place is Antoine Bibeau with just 4 NHL games played. In 2nd place is Chris Gibson, another second rounder with just 14 games played. And number 1 from the 2012-13 season out of the QMJHL, Maxime Lagacé, 17. So all that's true, but you can't just write FUCALE off. After all, I brought up Tristan Jarry. This was his first, regular season in the NHL. A lot of the time, goalies take time. And for FUCALE, his time may be soon. Now, the principal points of this deal, Rene Bourque and Mike Cammalleri. Mike Cammalleri made $6 million against the salary cap, which the Montreal Canadiens weren't really feeling anymore. Rene Bourque, 3.333333. Hence the little second round pick sweetener. When Mike Cammalleri went back to the Calgary Flames that year, they needed goals, and he provided immediately. 11 goals and 8 assists for 19 points in 28 games. He had more goals in fewer games with the Flames that season than he did with the Montreal Canadiens. The next season, he only had 13 goals and 19 assists for 32 points, but that was in the lockout-shortened 2013 season, so he did that in just 43 games. He was good. And his 3rd and final season in Calgary, 45 points, but 26 of them goals, but here's the problem, 63 games. It turns out banging and crashing into NHL players your whole life is tough. In the next season, he signs with the New Jersey Devils, $5 million per year, and again, he only gets into 68 games. Should be mentioned he scored 27 goals though. Mike Cammalleri, man, underrated, respect it. But let's go back in time, because I said in this video the Calgary Flames were sort of trying to make the playoffs. They did. Despite finishing second in the Northeast Division, the Flames only had 90 points, were 9th in the West, and didn't make it. Rene Bourque with the Montreal Canadiens, similar problems staying in the lineup to Mike Cammalleri. And unfortunately for all parties involved, it affected his production. 21 goals, 18 assists for 39 points over his 4 full seasons in Montreal, 141 games. A far cry from his previous production in Calgary just leading up to this trade, where he had 3 straight 20-goal seasons, 21, 27, 27. And in this season where he was traded, that he split between the Flames and Habs, he still had 18, and he didn't even play a full season. Again, another 20-goal pace. And just to put a bow in the trade tree, I should mention the last part. Years after this trade, Rene Bourque would get dealt to the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for Brian Allen, who played in 5 games for the Montreal Canadiens, so that's that. So what do we have with this deal? Anything big and exciting? It obviously didn't work out for Montreal. Patrick Holland played very few games for them, Rene Bourque couldn't stay in the lineup, and Zach FUCALE could not be the perennial backup to Carey Price that some people thought he would be. No, the Flames didn't get anything out of their 5th round pick, but they did get 106 decent starts out of Carey Ramo, and 135 games and 96 points worth of production out of Mike Cammalleri. That's good. Even at the maybe a little too high cap hit, that's good. So even though I would say the Calgary Flames got much more out of this deal than the Montreal Canadiens did they achieve their goal? No. The goal is the Stanley Cup, and you can't hit that goal if you don't make the playoffs, and they did not. The Montreal Canadiens, on the other hand, during the lockout-shortened 2012-13 season, they got into the first round. They lost in 5 to Ottawa, but they got in there. In the following season, 2013-14, they went to the 3rd round against the New York Rangers, where they eventually fell in 6, but if Carey Price was just in the lineup, they might have gone to the final, man. I know we got to see LA New York, which is pretty cool, but LA Montreal Redux from 93? Come on! Even though they didn't actually get much in this trade, the Montreal Canadiens made this deal, in part at very least, to clear some cap room and make their team a little bit better. Look at the results. So, what do you think about this deal? Leave a comment in the comment box down below. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. If you're sitting on the bench with them and they're having a bad game, just tell them they got traded. They might believe you.